Oh, hey guys, it's Kevin again, and yes, finally, after like a month, I'm finally back. I know it's been a while since you guys have seen any content from me. Last video I did, I think, was like my 13 Reasons Why season 4 review. But I've just been very busy, and you guys will know why in a little bit. But you know what? I figured Big Brother is back. It's something that a lot of us didn't think we were going to get this summer at all. And considering that, during quarantine and things like that, the majority of it has been me in the sequester community. I figured that I would bring on some of the people that I've been talking to, give their perspectives, things like that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's still going to be similar to what I normally do, but I do have some guests with me, so we're just going to bring them in real quick. First of all, we have Sean Dairo. How are you?
Hi.
Yes, good to have you on here. Next up, we have Adam Selcov.
Hey.
And finally, we have Topher. All right, so what's up, guys? So the four of us, we're going to be discussing just the premiere. If you guys are new to these videos, how this normally works is I'm only going to talk about the premiere. Yes, we know feeds are a thing, but I figured we're going to focus solely on the premiere, which I think is a good idea for this one, considering the whole thing was live. There's a lot of preseason stuff to talk about, all that kind of stuff. So we're just kind of we're gonna start going around the room talking about, our hopes for the season, things like that. I basically already said what I needed to. This was a season that a lot of people just didn't think were going to happen. They didn't think that it was possible, especially with COVID and things like that. So I guess we'll start off with Sean. Sean, what were you most excited for when it comes to this season?
The fact that, even before COVID, people were already like, oh, we need an all-star season. We need an all-star season. And then COVID hits. And then Big Brother hits us with an all-star season. So bring that oomph back, and then giving back the Big Brother community and just having that back is just something fun to do, even with friends who don't watch Big Brother, you can bring in with. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I think it's exciting to have Big Brother back as an all-star season.
Yes, definitely. Especially the fact that, again, we didn't even think that this was going to happen. And people for years have been saying, give us an all-star season. The fact that we have one, I think, is definitely very special. But Topher, talk a little bit more about, Big Brother and how excited you were.
Dude, I was so excited. I was worried that we weren't even going to get a season. And then they kept saying, okay, the murmurs are coming, that we're going to have a season. It's going on without a shadow of a doubt. But they said that about Survivor too. And then we found out that Survivor is not going on without a shadow of a doubt. And then it was supposed to start in June. And then it was supposed to start in July. And then, we're getting deeper and deeper into July. And it's like, oh, will they, won't they? And then boom, they finally, it wasn't till the 11th hour, because we were supposed to get a cast release last week. And they were like, we're just going to release the cast the night of.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what ended up happening, which we will in fact talk about. But Adam, what did you want to offer?
Yeah, for me, the most exciting part was just learning who the cast was. For years, we've been talking about who will they bring back, who won't they bring back. Is Jody coming back? Is Eric Stein coming back? And it was really interesting to see the names that were floated around, and the names that were even on the alternate list, like Amber. Who would have even thought she was in consideration? But seeing the list that we got and the people who we saw last night, I was so excited to see so many of them back. Like Keesha, who in their wildest dreams would have thought Keesha would be playing in 2020. Insane. So that was my most exciting part, was just learning who the cast actually was.
Yes, for sure. Again, this was a very interesting group. There were a lot of interesting people, and I think it ended up being a better cast than most of us were expecting. I mean, I know before we came on here, we were talking about how we thought it mainly was going to be people from 18 through 21, and it seemed like for a while that's what it was going to be. So the fact that it is mainly old school versus new school, I think is really cool. I like the fact that it's different personalities in that way. And I think there's a lot of interesting people here. And I think there's a lot of interesting bonds for sure. And just to ask you guys, who are you most excited to see on this season?
I think for me, the person I was most excited to see first, Devon, we all love her. She is gold. She's amazing. But the person that I guess I was most surprised to see in a pleasant way was Kevin. Kevin killed his season, and Kevin should have been asked back so many times. And so just to finally see him back, I think he's my winner pick. He is someone who I think will go so far in this game.
Yeah, definitely. I think Kevin has a really good advantage now. I will say right now, the two people that I'm not as familiar with are Kevin and Kaysar. I really have not watched their seasons a lot because I've watched since like Big Brother 12. But I'm definitely happy to see them on. Oh, we have another person here that just joined at the last second. She wanted to offer her perspective, which I think is really cool. We have Robyn. What's up, Robyn?
Hey, everyone.
Yes,
Hey,
yes, great to have.
I wanted
Robyn.
to join the conversation.
No, definitely. This is really good conversation for sure. So we're definitely happy to have you here with us. But Robyn, we were just talking about who are you most excited to see on this season and get the preseason, stuff and everything.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everybody knows I love Queen Devon and Bayleigh, but I'm surprised to see, because I didn't really see her much on any list, is Nicole A.
Yeah.
I would love to see her on because I think she's such an all-star. And David, who I was surprised to see. But I know everybody's ragging on David, but I'm glad that he's on like as a first.
Yes.
And he could probably show some strategic gameplay that we did kind of see last year with Camp Comeback and all that.
Yeah, David was someone that I actually am really excited is here because I feel like he, just wasn't given the chance at all to play last year. He went out so fucking early. But then when he came back in Camp Comeback, he really showed like he knew what he was doing. Like he had a good read on the game. He's not like a first boot flop in that way. I think he's really going to surprise us this season. I'm excited to see what he ends up doing. And I think he's gonna give us something that we're not necessarily expecting. And I think because he went out so early, he has an advantage in this game that a lot of people don't. The way he's able to retain information, the way he's going to be able to forge certain bonds with people. I think he's really going to surprise a lot of people. So I'm excited to see what he ends up bringing to the cast for sure. Also, guys, we do have one more person joining us. He's not here yet, Keith Dumais. He will be here in like 10 minutes, so he will offer his perspective then. But yeah, so a very interesting cast for sure. I think it's a good blend of old school versus new school. We were kind of talking about that, which is not something I think a lot of people were expecting. The only people here that I think we can both agree just aren't that great are Christmas and Nicole F. But here's the thing, and we talked about this before we got on here. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because I feel like Christmas especially was in such a toxic cast, and I feel like I feel like she's going to be able to thrive better with this group. I think and amongst the people they could have brought back, I'll take Christmas. I'd much rather have her over, say, Alex or like Raven or Matt or anyone else. Like Christmas is perfectly fine. I think the only reason Christmas got as bad as she did is one, because the stipulation of the broken foot, but two, it was also because of the fact that she wasn't really able to, she was with a group of people that were just so toxic that it brought out the absolute worst in her. And I think at least what we've seen of her so far, like I'm not that bothered by her being here so far.
And I'll defend Nicole for a bit. Nicole played twice, and we all remember her BB18 game. And I don't think any of us loved it.
No.
But if you remember BB16, she was a fan favorite.
Oh, yeah. I loved her on that season.
I think she came in the top 3, maybe. I don't think she won.
She won the battle back, and then she got eliminated, shortly thereafter. Oh, for fan favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, especially some of the casuals, are pretty excited to see her, and I'm excited to see what she does without a showmance and without any boy distraction.
Yes.
So I actually think Nicole has a lot of upside because people probably don't think of her as like a winner, even though she is one.
Yeah, I agree.
And I get what you're saying, Adam. Like those are really good points. Just like me in general, like when I see them ask people in these shows, like just because she's played twice already and she's won one Like Ian, I could give a pass to because he's only played one time, and I'm like, I would just want it to be opened up more to like somebody else to have her space. But having her on is not a detriment to the game in any way. I just hate that she's doing shady shit in the game, but that's just who Nicole is.
Yeah, no, she. Go ahead, Topher.
Oh, which I can stand by.
The interesting thing, though, because you touched on it, that you'd rather see somebody else. I think the interesting thing about this cast is I don't know if anybody really took anybody's place. I think they got who they could.
No, definitely, because with COVID and things like that.
That's true also.
So if this was regular, like non-COVID related Big Brother 22 and Nicole was on there, I would probably have a lot more negative feelings about her presence in the house because I feel like she could be robbing it from somebody else. But in this situation, I'm just glad they got 16 people that were decent enough names.
Yeah, and that is something they talked about, like right at the top. Like they extensively tested everyone. There were a lot of switch ups. We know that Josh and Casey were supposed to be on there, and now they're not. The only person I feel like was legitimately snubbed was Johnny Mac. I feel like he could have easily been a lock. I remember how entertaining he was on Big Brother 17. For me, he was the fan favorite, even though he didn't win fan favorite. I think he really was the fan favorite on there. He's really the only person that was like legitimately like a snub for me. Most of what we have here, though, I'm pretty satisfied with. Robyn, you touched upon Ian, and I think Ian's in a very interesting position where, one, he looks so much older than he did in Big Brother 14. Like, out of everyone, I'm like, damn, time has not been kind to him. Like, he's, like, going gray.
Memphis.
Yeah, no, definitely. Those two look completely different. And the other thing with Ian is that we have to remember Big Brother 14, Ian was really fucking awkward in the beginning. Like he was walking around like naked and things like that. Like he was in a very interesting spot. And I think this season already we're starting to see that. I hope he connects well with this group. I think someone like Nicole A, who I am so happy is back. When they said All-Stars, like I immediately thought of her, and she's definitely the Nicole that I prefer. I think it's perfect for him because those two can be weird and eccentric together, and I think they're going to have that bond, and I'm excited to see how that works. So most of the cast I'm pretty satisfied with for sure. I think there's a lot of great people in here, people that we weren't even expecting, like say Keesha, for example. I don't think anyone would have expected for them to get her there, and I'm excited to see how she's going to do. Janelle, Kaysar, like I think it's just a really solid cast overall. And if there's anyone I'm leaving out that y'all want to go over, like go ahead and do that.
No, I think I'm just glad that they got it because there's no more than 2 people from any given season.
Yes,
that's on the season. So I think that it's truly going to be as fair as possible because in Big Brother 7, which was the first All Stars, you had half of the cast was from season 6 and 5, which was the 2 most recent seasons before that. 7 out of the 14 people, and they were season 6 basically ran the house, and we're not going to have that in this season. So
100%, and like you said, the last All Stars was mainly the same crew, so it's good to see a different group here. And there are some connections that we'll talk about more next week because, like I said, we'll get more into live feeds and things like that. Mainly just going over the premiere here, but there are definitely some very well-known connections that I think some people aren't as aware of, and I'm excited to see what they end up doing there. But then you also have people like, say, Nicole and Devon, who just fucking hate each other and want nothing to do with each other. So I think it's a really interesting group for sure, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. So yeah, I think in terms of preseason stuff, we have a cast that I'm definitely very satisfied with. I think again, just the fact that we have this is something that I'm very happy about. But something we have to dive into is just the format of this premiere was unlike anything we've seen before for Big Brother. It was very much like an over-the-top. Yes, it was. A mess is a good way to describe it, Robyn. Yes, it was very much a mess because you can tell they're not used to this. They don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of just like thinking on their feet. And the way it started off, especially seeing Julie with an empty audience, all in the house by herself. It was awkward. It was definitely awkward because this is not normally what we see at all. Normally it's edited. And here's the thing. I normally have a pet peeve with the premieres because I feel like they're too long. They zoom through things really quickly. We don't really get to know the house guest. And in this, we already have that advantage that we know the house guest, so we don't really have to do that. But I also don't love the format because of the fact that we didn't really get to see what we wanted. It was mainly just competitions, much of which really weren't that great, especially in terms of the fairness of it all, which I'm sure, Robyn, that's something that you want to get into for sure.
Yeah, like it was just like really weird. Like, okay, the first challenge, we noticed that the women kind of weren't having a disadvantage with like winning. Like only one woman won from the first group, Christmas, and she got them strong arms and everything. And then when it came to the men, like doing the challenge, we saw like where the ball had to go in for them, it was kind of closer than the women's for both times. So that kind of irked my nerves a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we like make it fair for everyone? Because there were spaces in the middle for you to have it both ways.
Well, I don't understand why they couldn't have had the exact same answer for each contestant because of the fact that they didn't get to watch. It's not like they got to watch it, so it wouldn't have mattered. They could have just had that would have made it the fairest across the board.
The one thing I did like about the comp, and I didn't like much about it, but the one thing I liked is that it was sort of like a house tour. Because with the 4 different answers, we were going through the entire house and seeing like, okay, these statues were here and these were here, and we're looking at each room. Granted, they had 4 answers and they knew where they were on the board. So I don't like, they can have some in different places maybe, but don't give the women the 2 farthest ones on the board and the men the 2 closer ones. But that was a little icky to me.
Yeah, that was annoying. And then the other thing that was annoying is that something we did not think about is the fact that these 4 are, it's separated by 4 different groups each time, which is fine in theory. But what's not fine in theory is that I have to watch the same fucking comp like 4 times in a row. And it's like, the first one was such a slog to get through. It took forever. I think it was like Christmas. It was like Christmas, Nicole, Davon, and I want to say Dani. It was the 4 of them in there who we didn't touch upon before. Really excited to see Dani without Evil Dick and not have him at all and just be on her own. And I think that's going to put her in a really good spot because, I mean, if we remember Dani in Big Brother 13, the reason she was as good as she was is because she very much was an outsider after a while. And she realized that the people that she was essentially forced to work with, she didn't really have to anymore because she could be on her own. She didn't need her partner in, her father. So I'm glad to see her on her own here. And I think that goes for a lot of the cast. They don't have that known duo. And I'm excited to see them thrive without said duo.
Yeah, because there is pairs.
Yeah, the cast really seems like a redemption type season. I know they sort of focused on that a little bit, but if you look at everyone has something to prove. And even the winners, like they have to prove that they earned their title as, Ian versus Dan, Paul versus Nicole. Like people didn't think they should have won. The people who got to the final 2, like they want to try and win. We have first boots. The other thing that I noticed about the cast was that I think 15 out of the 20 seasons are represented, something along those lines, which I think is really cool that it's all over time, not just, second half, first half.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good for sure because they could have easily just gotten if this person made it to jury, they're automatically qualified. But I like that we have someone like we said before, David, who really has not gotten and nearly as far and really hasn't gotten to play this game at all. I like that he has that second chance for sure. But yeah, going back to the comp, it really wasn't the best. And this is kind of this is my theory. I think, and this is really not that hard to think about. We know the production already is very cheap. We know that the production does not put a lot. I know Robyn's like, really? I'm so shocked about this.
We know they can here.
Yeah, we know they don't put a lot of thought into things. So I feel like it is very possible that they were just like, oh, we have this group. Who cares about the fairness of it all? Who cares about how interesting these comps are going to be? let's just wing it, let's just like put something together. Who cares if it actually makes sense? And I think because of that, that's why this comp was not fun to watch at all. It honestly, I said it on Twitter, felt more like the shuffleboard of Big Brother 16, the buyback, than anything, because it just was not exciting. And they very much agree with Sam's comment here. They could not have done it enough. Definitely, I think give it another 4 times for sure, because that was definitely the pacing of this entire premiere. And I think what.
Oh, and there were other things we wanted to see. Like, we didn't need to see the maze 4 times. Not to get too ahead, but when everyone was meeting each other, one of my favorite moments of the premiere was Janelle seeing Kaysar and being like, "You're here, what?"
Yeah.
And, like, I would have loved to see more of those interactions of, like, Nicole seeing Cody. I don't know if we saw that one. Or, like, I don't know, Ray and Dayton, we saw a tiny bit, but I would have loved to see that more. And instead, we got the same puzzle 4 times in a row. And most people not completing it, which is just not fun.
No,
would it have been so terrible if instead of them moving in live, because there's no audience, so they could have moved in like maybe they moved in earlier in the day and then led up to a live HOH competition.
Yeah, it was definitely awkward for sure, because normally we don't see this kind of stuff. We normally don't see them move in live. We normally don't see the competitions and things like that. And like I said, well, I'm not usually a big fan of the way the premiere is structured. The editing makes it a lot less awkward, because there was a lot of awkward stuff going on here. And we have our other guest that was supposed to be here, but he's late. Here is Keith Dumais, everyone. Keith, how are you doing?
Hello.
Hey, Keith.
Hi.
Yes, good to have you here, Keith. We were just talking about the unfairness of some of the challenges and how awkward some of it was, but just to back up a little bit, since we didn't really get your perspective, Keith, what was your what were you most looking forward to in this preseason?
I'm just glad that we actually have all-stars, people who are ready to play, instead of people that they found on Instagram and Tinder.
Yes, 100%, absolutely. That's something else that.
Hey, one day they might find me on Instagram or Tinder.
You be a good player, but
yes, we hope so, Robyn. We hope so. Go ahead.
Because I think Kat, right before the premiere, showcased the message she got. I don't know, after what happened with last year, this is really great to see everyone actually playing, not coming here just for a free summer vacation and all that stuff.
Yes.
And especially
I agree 100%. Because the thing that always bothers me about the newer seasons is that it's not people that really want to play. It's people they pluck from Instagram. It's people they've plucked from other platforms because they look good or because they think they're going to be fun to watch when they're not fun to watch. So it's good to see people that know the game, know what they're doing. That's very refreshing.
And I think
that's what bothers me.
Shown.
Yeah.
One thing that I think could have made this premiere so much better is maybe instead of everyone doing the maze, maybe in the groups of 4, they just found the object. And the first person to find it in each group, they move on. And then, then the 4 people do the maze and the winner of the 4 groups. And then you don't have the Christmas break your ankle again competition that I was so worried for her. I thought
it was triggered for her.
Yeah.
And that competition was not set up properly, because Cody had a very clear path to the finish watching the ones wobble. That Julie acknowledged the next commercial break, saying, we want to wait for them to stop wobbling. We don't want Nicole to win.
And that's another situation where it's they really could have taken the time to test that out, see if it works, see if it's safe, which it clearly isn't. I heard something about Memphis having spraining his ankle. That shouldn't happen on night 1, especially. These people already are in an unsafe, coming from an unsafe environment, and they're going,
especially with Christmas already there with the ankle injury from last time. They just wanted her to go down again.
How can we play our greatest hits?
Exactly. We brought her back to show her potential. Her breaking her foot again is not at all what we need. And I also agree wholeheartedly with what Sam is saying here. Yes, definitely. I think if they brought them in one by one, it would have been a more interesting feel. We would have really gotten to see them more as players, which is what we want to see. We don't want to see them just, playing in competitions. We want to see who they are, what they've been up to, which we did technically get in the intros. Like, we talked about how a lot of them have moved on, a lot of them have gotten married, like Tyler and Angela, for example, have made like their own sort of business. So there definitely are things that they've done. I just wanted to see more of that. Like, I don't want an entire premiere where they're just doing competitions. That's not exciting to me, Like, yes, the HOH is important, but the interactions is always what's most interesting. Them popping the champagne bottles and things like that. Not seeing that was jarring for sure. And the fact that we didn't get that was a little strange.
Well, and for us to be able to see the thing that they have that's unique to what like Survivor has is, so when they're isolated and sequestered right before they play the game, they can see each other. They're already aware of who all's in the game. They're seeing each other. We had a genuine opportunity to see real, genuine surprise reactions of each one of them seeing who else was in the house, and we yada that. They're all introducing themselves to each other or like surprised to see each other, and we've got Julie screaming over the loud phone, "Last person to sit down gets evicted right away."
Yeah, no, that was hilarious because we don't normally see Julie so off script. She's usually very robotic like this, and she doesn't have much emotion in her. So for her to just have zero control over what they're doing, it's like, where were the moderators when you needed them? Where were the room limits? Where were those people?
I feel like the producers really flopped this episode with introducing them all together and stuff. Like, they know it was going to be this big commotion and what's going to happen, and it should have been a bigger moment, and they should have a second to like meet each other and stuff. But it was like, okay, we're meeting each other, let's go play this competition.
The one thing that I felt
No, go ahead.
The one thing that I felt like was really missing was when they're all sitting around the couch and they stand up one by one and they're like, "Hi, my name is X, I'm from here." And then you get like the Brittany Haynes reaction of like, "I love Reagan so much. We can talk about Sex in the City," like that whole sequence. And like, can you imagine what it would be like to do that? And you have like Bayleigh stand up and Tyler's inner monologue of like, "Oh my God, Bayleigh, like, is she going to hate me? Is she going to love me now? Like, what, I think that would have been really cool.
And I think in all fairness, we are going to get that in the next episode, but it's like, that's always been a staple of the premiere. Like, for example, when Devon and Kevin saw each other immediately, I wanted to see like her reactions. I wanted to see the DR there. And the fact that we didn't have that, was definitely a little disappointing. And again, I understand like it's all live. There's not really a way for them to do like live DRs and things like that. But there were things that were missing. And again, I think in theory, a live move-in is an interesting idea. But I think, like you said, Robyn, it was just very awkward and messy.
Yeah.
And I don't
know.
The
producers really dropped the ball. Like, we saw it there with that den and everything not being open. I'm like, really?
Oh my God.
The game's not being tested out. Like,
yeah. Can we talk about
that? Ready? We are willing to wait another week if y'all can get your shit together.
Exactly. Yeah, and the fact that the have-not door of all things is not opening, like, there's a problem there. There's clearly a problem. That's another thing where it's like, you could have easily tested this out. You could have easily seen, is this room possible to get in? Because I understand they want them to like have to crawl under it, but like if they can't even open the fucking door, like there's a problem there.
It was just awkward watching them in that hallway, just trying to get the.
And then it just cuts to commercial, and then she's like, "You will eventually get into the room," and it's
does
like,
it push or does it slide?
I think Julie was frustrated with all that nonsense last night. Like, she's like, "I'm just hosting. I'm not a producer. Y'all get your shit together."
No, exactly. It was very haphazardly put together in that way. And it was just weird to see. I also loved how she made it seem like we were going to get this big twist reveal, and we kind of did, but she's like, inside those envelopes is a game-changing power, and it's literally just have not acknowledged.
$5,000 and have not.
Yeah.
Maybe she
that's
thought,
a game-changing thing. Because we haven't had it last season. This is all new.
No, I agree with you. That is something that kind of feels like classic Big Brother, because I feel like have-nots throughout the seasons have become more and more irrelevant. So the fact that she's acknowledging it, I'm happy about. But I did find it funny how she acted like it was this big deal when it's really not. We have-nots every season. We just don't really talk about them these days.
Kaysar, Keesha, and Memphis have never had a have-not room.
Ooh, that is interesting.
Came in season 11.
We like those underdogs. We like the underdog story, because especially when they're not in that position usually. Memphis is another one that we didn't really talk about a lot. How do we feel about him being on this season? How do we think he's going to do?
Memphis is a wild card for me in many different ways. The last time we saw him was, 12 years ago? Yeah. He was probably around 25, maybe like closer to 30. And he seemed very, for lack of a better term, like the stereotypical white bread that we get on every season, you know? Now, at least from the premiere, he seems older and a little wiser. Now he has a kid, and it'll be really interesting to see how he fits in with this group, because I don't think he's going to do the typical bro-y things that he was doing. I think it might be more like bonding about your kids and that type of thing, which I think will be really interesting with this specific group of people. One thing we didn't talk about was how the average age is like very high here.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have a single person under the age of 25. Almost everyone's in a relationship, so there's not really going to be any showmances.
Yes,
we love.
We love.
And if you go with like the what I can't think of her first. I think it's Chelsea Cairns archetypes or whatnot. The role that Memphis would typically play would be, well, this new Memphis that we're seeing would be the older white male that's in the house, the more like, you know, kind of in that area of Summer of Steve and Cliff Hogg, except but like, you know, or maybe even Kevin, but he's not, because he's, you know, what, 5 years, if that, older or younger than half the cast.
No,
so that's good.
No, he really hasn't. And I think the thing that's great about someone like Memphis is that he's really not alone. There's people like Kaysar. There's people like, you know, there's other people that are like him. There's him. There's Cody. There's Tyler. Ian, definitely. So I think what's good about this cast is that it's pretty balanced in terms of age. The youngest we have is like, say, Nicole or David. But even at that, it's like,
David is old.
David's 30.
Yeah, he's 30.
Even David is 30. So like, this is not really a young cast, which is not something that we are used to. And I think it's just very refreshing. So
which
I
is
think,
good to see. Yeah.
I
Of course, I'm getting too old to watch like young people act like idiots on reality TV.
That's what Love Island for.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
So I'm definitely enjoying the dynamics of ages.
I think the other interesting thing specifically about Memphis is that there's a lot of people in a Memphis type position. Like the amount of people who've been second place on a season, competing with bigger names like a Dan, like even Ian, you know, you have Ian who's also competed versus Dan in a final two. You have Tyler and you have Cody, who've both lost in final twos.
Yes.
And I think that'll put him in a really interesting position. I think he's also geographically close to some people. I know he's from Florida, and I don't remember exactly where everyone's from, but I think there's at least one or two other people from like, I think there's a few other people from Florida, so that'll be interesting.
And one thing about Memphis is, with him and Cody, a lot of these people sort of are playing games without their partner who had a bigger spotlight. Because when we think of their line, we think of Dan as the one who calling the shots. With Cody and Derek, it was Derek. So that's a lot of, even with Christmas, her spotlight was Paul. So it's really fascinating to actually see them play without their controller.
And we were talking about that.
Okay, I missed that part. And then plus we also have people, I feel like this is people who actually have a shot to play on their own, and also redemption for some people, which is fascinating. From David to actually surviving longer than he did his previous season with no day one crabby twist, to even Christmas, because she actually can use both of her legs.
Yeah, we were talking about before how like a lot of these people, they don't have that duo that they're in. And I think that's why Cody winning HOH, which, you know, isn't necessarily the most ideal, you know, first HOH for sure, I do think is kind of going to set the tone for the season because he was in a duo. We haven't really gotten to see him on his own. If you remember in 16, there were tons of times where he wanted to cause chaos and Derek would shut him down. He's not there to do that this time. So I feel like we're going to get a different kind of Cody this season. I'm all here. We get Chaos Cody, and I hope we get Chaos Cody because I think that's going to be a lot of fun for sure. And I think Cody winning HOH, again, it's surprising, not something that I was expecting at all, but I think it's good for people like Memphis because I can see those two linking up like right away, you know, like I could definitely see like a Renegades or a Hitmen sort of, you know, alliance. So I could definitely see things, you know, working out for those two. But Cody is HOH. That's something that we didn't talk about. How do we feel that Cody is HOH and all that stuff?
It could be worse.
Yeah. It could be
worse.
HOH.
It could be worse.
I feel like Cody's a pretty typical first HOH for a modern Big Brother. That's kind of the archetype that wins HOH the first week anyway. So it's kind of par for the course that he's HOH. And I think that we're really going to get to see whether or not, you know, how the house is going to divide based off of Cody's pre-existing relationships. You know, those are the people that are going to take power, and we'll get to see kind of that safety chain, if you will, of who's connected to Cody the closest, and then who's connected to them, and who's connected to them.
The other interesting thing about Cody is that he's sort of in the middle in terms of new school and old school. Like 16 was, 6 years ago? And he has some friends that have played more recently. Like he played with Nicole, who then played in 18, which is more recent. But as we talked about, he's also potentially going to be connected to someone like Memphis, who's on the more old school side. And so having someone in the middle means that the noms are going to be pretty interesting. I could see it being, you know, one person from old, one person from new, or maybe both from old, both for new. You know, it's really going to be unpredictable.
Well, and the Memphis Cody connection we haven't talked about is they're connected through Zach. Zach is a business partner of Memphis.
Oh, really?
Zach Rance?
Yeah, because he does, Zach Rance does like real estate and whatnot, and so Memphis has worked with him in that regard. And so Cody and Zach are buds because of their season, so now they have that in common.
I actually did not know about that connection, but that's one of those connections that I think a lot of people don't know about, and I think that Cody's gonna be able to use that to his advantage. I think the two people he needs the most are Memphis and Tyler. I think those two, they're in very similar positions, and I think he's gonna link up with them quite well. It also very much helps Nicole F. You know, however we feel about that, it very much does help her because I doubt she will be first boot this week. I doubt that's going to end up happening because they have that connection of Big Brother 16. They're going to use that to their advantage. And I think it is going to help more than hurt Cody, more than anything.
They do, but again, if I'm not mistaken, Nicole went into BB18 with that connection and nominated Pauly the first week when Nicole won HOH. So, you know, Nicole does have a history of nominating a Calafiore on the first week, and who knows if that'll be reciprocated.
Yeah, but that's Pauly. That's his brother.
Yeah.
They've actually
Pauly is
been in
a
a
very
season
different
together.
than
Cody and Nicole have been in a season together. They know each other pretty well.
Yes. And that's the other thing. Thank God we have
Pauly's personality and Cody's personality are way different.
Thank God, because I remember there were talks of Pauly being in here, and I'm like, no, bring Cody.
I mean, good eye candy, but no.
That would have been interesting though to see the two brothers play together.
Y'all see Cody showering last night? Oh my gosh.
I must say though, with that being said, I don't know if did y'all talk about people who were supposed to be on but didn't make it?
We started to a little bit with Josh and Casey.
Because with the thing with Pauly, because I rather have Cody just because he's more calm and collected and more, I think, mature in that style, even though he's the younger one. But like Josh and Casey, I'm kind of glad they're not on just because I feel like this whole group is more, it's like fresh still, even though some we saw 20 minutes ago. But with Josh and Casey, well, specifically Josh, he would cause random chaos and such, and sort of camera cloutness. And as for an all-star season, I don't want to see that. Like, I really feel like in terms of like drama and such, it's gonna be like real, like it's gonna be sad when I see like Keesha maybe fight with Janelle or Enzo yelling at someone. But that's the kind of stuff we want, and I feel like if we added those, it would just be like, oh. And that's why, like I said, I'm very glad we got Cody. Like, if we had to choose two lesser of the evils, I'd rather choose the one that, you know, hasn't made I haven't watched the challenge with Pauly yet, but I think he made himself look boo-boo the fool on there as well.
Yeah, no, I have heard of that. Also, you touched upon Enzo. That's someone else we haven't talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Choice, for sure.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, actually, Enzo was the one that surprises me the most that's on this cast. That they would have gone... One, that he even wants to play, and then two, that they went that deep to get him is, you know...
I think it's exciting just because when we look at BB12, the brigade had 2 and 2. They had 2 smart people, I think, and then 2 brawn and everything. Matt screwed himself over and such because I can't remember who was the one who issued to get rid of Matt. I feel like it was Enzo, but I could be wrong. Okay, good.
Enzo was the leader.
No, he did a lot of stuff that he has not gotten credit for.
He could have honestly won. He's one of those people who, like Kevin and such, who had a good shot of winning.
Yes.
If they made it to the end, even though I remember when I think I watched BB11 back in like forever, I didn't want him because I was Team Jordan. How the tables have turned now.
Oh yeah, I think that's. So
I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see that because I hope he doesn't make another version of the brigade. Maybe diversify it. Maybe add some females. Like, it'd be really interesting to see like him and Janelle maybe potentially working together. Or I don't know, he could be Cody's new Derek in some type of way.
I worry though that Enzo's the least connected person in the house. Pre-game wise. I think that everybody else at least has a reason to know each other, and I don't think Enzo has any connections in the game.
No, I wouldn't say
not
so.
Yet.
He's definitely
not yet, obviously.
Enzo though, I think fits that mold of people that you wouldn't normally expect to be in here that should be in here because, you know, he was part of the brigade. He was part of a very successful alliance. And I think he definitely is going to bring something interesting to the table. And also for me, it's good to see because Big Brother 12 was the first season I ever watched. So the fact that he's in there is a bit of nostalgia for me as well, which I think is the same for a lot of these people, you know?
And I'm not the biggest Enzo fan, but I will say, like, in season 12, I think he should have been the second sitting there with Hayden, you know? Like, they both played really good in that alliance. No.
They did, for sure. And
but of course, Hayden couldn't win against him. Or at least in his mind. Who knows how that vote would have went.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in an interesting spot for sure. I'm excited to see how he does. But the other thing I really did like about this premiere, which, you know, we touched upon before, there wasn't a lot to like about this premiere for sure. But the one thing I did really like that kind of felt like classic Big Brother to me was the interview that Cody did with Julie. Because I remember back in the day when they used to do this, they used to do these like, you know, HOH type one-on-one interviews, but we haven't really gotten them recently because, you know, there's so much coverage and things like that. And I'm all for them coming back. Like, if this is the start of us seeing the return of that, I'm all for it because we really get to see Cody's sole perspective, which is very important. Him talking about how Kaysar's a threat. Kaysar could very well be the first boot here. Kaysar could very well be going up on the block. I mean, I know we don't want it, but I think that's going to be, it's going to be like that every week, really, I think.
The amazing thing about this cast, though, is that there's no one who I'm like, I want them to be the first boot. Like, every single person, I'm like, I want them to go far. Maybe not everyone. Almost everyone, I'm like, I want them to go far. So I think it's going to be a devastating boot order, no matter who goes.
Well, if Chris was his first boot, she just won money, so that's usually a curse.
You're okay with that.
Chris was growing would make sense, but I don't think she
with the Cody DR, it's really nice because it's live and it's not edited DR. Because I think we sort of people start to notice what things are scripted, what's being influenced and such and everything. It was nice to see it raw and real and hear his thoughts without telling someone in the shadows saying, hey, why don't you go talk a little bit about Enzo? Let's try to get him up or something, how the DR tries to do their magic of words. So I hope they continue that, especially if we have, I really hope we get diverse HOHs, not like the same people back to back. But I really like that's something they're bringing back. And hopefully Prayer Circle, that we get the nomination wheel back. I know they were talking about it last night. And some people were like, but I hope we get that lovely
nomination
key wheel.
Wheel.
The key wheel thing.
No. Yes.
I love this system.
I liked it because it was more suspenseful as opposed to what we have now for sure. But I think I think definitely the idea of them doing these one-on-one sort of interviews again, I think is something that, again, I'd want to see more of because it's real. It's like Keith said, it's real, it's authentic, it's raw. We don't normally get to see it. A lot of the times, a lot of the DRs you watch are very much scripted. They're very similar. They're not what we normally want to see. So if we're going to get more of these moving forward, that's something that I am 100% all for sure.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered almost everything. I think we talked about pretty much everything that happened in the premiere. The only other things I want to talk about is what the hell this like safety suite thing is going to be. Have we speculated, all that kind of stuff? Because I really don't know what this is going to mean, what it really is about. But if I know Big Brother, this is something that hopefully, I could be wrong, seems like it's going to last like 2 to 3 weeks and then will fade into the background. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm not at all here for this stuff because it usually has zero influence on the season overall. And I think it's probably going to be the same here.
This one looks like it might actually have a little bit of effect going right away because it's going to be public. It's not a secret power. Okay. From what I don't know if we're allowed to talk about what we've seen on the feed so far, if this is spoiler-free podcast.
I just saw some things that I'm really happy about, but
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week for sure.
Okay. But yeah, they talked about the twist a little bit. And so I think it's something that's going to be above board because it's something that everybody in the house is going to be aware of and aware of who has it. And I think that's the fairest way you can do a twist.
Yeah, certainly more fair than the competitions where every time there's 4 girls, it's 1 girl winning, and every time it's guys, it's 2 guys winning.
Yeah, I must say with that, the first thing I thought is, oh God, a twist to save Tyler. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah,
but correct me if I'm wrong, but is this VIP suite changing each week? So like this week is VIP, so maybe next week might be something. So I don't know. Like I enjoy twists and such. I guess it's interesting, but I guess with All Stars, I want it to be like BB10, where the only biggest twist is like double addiction, if they count that as a twist these days. But we'll see how it feels. It's, like I said, I'm kind of biased because if the twist benefits those I like, I love this twist. But if it's someone who I don't like and they benefit from it, I'm like, oh well, damn it, Grodner. But
we don't know exactly what the twist will be, but with
their
safety, their safety. And like I was talking about, like randomize 2 people and minus like 2 or 3 names. I'm fine with any of them having safety. Like you give me Davon and Keesha, love it. You give me Kaysar and Enzo, happy for it. You give me Bayleigh and I don't know, Janelle, I'm here for it. Like, I don't know. I feel like if there's just 2 people or 1 person getting safety, I'm okay with whoever it is, minus a few notable exceptions.
Well, and I don't know how important safety really is going to be this week because I don't think there's going to be any obvious targets right off the bat. So say for hypothetically, if Tyler is given safety this week, does it really matter? I mean, I don't think Tyler's going home week 1 anyway.
Sadly, that's true.
You know, so give him that safety this week when it doesn't matter, so he can be up on the block a week down the road.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that factors in. One thing, we did unfortunately lose Sean here due to internet, but he did say what makes me interested is like we've seen in past seasons, people who are older get targeted or go far. And with this cast, that can't be a reason to go up or be targeted for the only influence, which, that's something that we were talking about. They can't be targeted because they're older, because everyone's older. So
can they be targeted for being younger?
Yes, that's definitely.
Tyler would be 22 or 23.
It's like a different show if that happens.
Yeah. I think another interesting thing, similar to Winners at War, is that since so many of them have kids, I want to say maybe half the cast has kids, will that play a role with like giving out $500,000? Like, are you more likely to want to vote for someone with kids? Is that like a divide that might come up? I don't know if it will, but I think, saying like, oh, this person has kids, like maybe they should go farther. Maybe they, I don't know. I think that is something that theoretically could be brought up.
But I think most of them, knock on wood, I think most of them are doing successful in their lives anyway.
Oh, yeah.
To where, like, they can't pull that whole sympathy card, like, oh, I need to give this to my kids to go to college, or they broke a leg, medical bills. But can we talk about how Julie was like, wow, the Big Brother house is making so many matchmakings? And I'm like, most of these people who are married are not married to Big Brother players. Mm-hmm. The only person who's married to a Big Brother player, I think, is Nicole eventually. Unless Victor screws up the wedding planning, and then Bayleigh.
And
Dani. Tyler.
Dani, Tyler.
Right.
Yeah. It's like half the cast is married to somebody that they met in the cast or because of Big Brother.
Yeah, there's a good majority of them for sure. But going back to Christmas, because I know we briefly touched upon her, Sean brought up this really good point that like, yeah, she's already like proven herself from to win, because she did win the HOH there. She was one of the only people. She was the only person to win that out of the 4 women. So like, she definitely has proven that she can do it. And I think,
I mean, let's see her in an endurance comp.
Yes.
We should probably call it a win for her.
Yeah, she's winning it. I think she's winning an endurance comp for sure.
I honestly saw that when I saw her go up yesterday to go on those little things to hop on, like she looked triggered. So she was really hesitant about like going on, and that like I felt it for her.
Yeah, I think she's worried it could potentially happen again. I think she wants to be able to prove herself, which makes sense.
You see her being cautious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her entire storyline right now is the girl that broke her foot, and she doesn't want to do that. So
which it was over something of horseplay. It wasn't even a competition.
Yeah,
it was horseplay.
Did y'all? I don't know if y'all talked about this because like I came in late. Did y'all think anyone threw the competition?
No, we didn't really talk about that. I did find it really funny though. I didn't talk about this. How Ian said in his intro how, oh, I'm going to try to downplay my intelligence. He then proceeds to, 1, wear the same clothes that he wore on the day that he won the game. 2, win the competition amongst like 2 other men. Like he was one of only 2 people in that group to win. It's like, if you're trying to downplay your intelligence, you're not really doing a good job with that so far. So
I think maybe
because not to spoil the beads, but he's also wearing a Yale shirt the entire time.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Oh wow, that's definitely downplaying it.
I think the tough part about throwing the first HOH competition when you only know 3 other contestants in the house is you don't know if one of your biggest rivals is also going to be in the house, and then you end up being first boot because you didn't go for HOH. I mean, it didn't really turn out that way. There's not really any rivals in the house, but you don't know that when you're one of 3 people or one of 4 people sitting there competing.
And I think what Topher said is, I think maybe during his pre-interviews he was thinking that, but once he saw the cast, I feel like I'm the most worried for him, just because this is I think it's going to be hard for him to adapt. And like, I'm surprised the winter talk hasn't happened yet, because him and Nicole are in there, and between those 2 winners, Nicole has more protection somehow than him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he might have Janelle for same season, but we don't know. Like I said, it's very interesting, and I think and for those who've been watching the feed, you learn a little bit more, and something I think we could talk about another time. But he is someone who I worry about because, like, I want to root for him and such, but I think maybe his nerves and such may get to him. But we'll see. Maybe he will do a surprise like he did in his season, where he started kind of awky and gawky and all that such, and then by the time jury came through, he got to Super Ian and kicked butt, which will be really nice.
But on average, every time a winner has returned to play Big Brother again, they have at least finished 4th, not counting Evil Dick's medical eviction.
Or Mike Boogie.
Yeah.
BB14.
Oh,
he didn't go very far.
We don't talk about him.
I know, but I'm just mentioning.
But people don't get targeted for being winners in Big Brother.
And I think it's from what some of you guys said already, it's like Ian and Nicole, and I think this is why they might go a little further, is because they were wins that people discredited, so
that's true.
Maybe that's in people's mind, like, oh yeah, they won, but they were up against these people who probably played better games.
Yeah,
and that's the fun thing about All-Star.
Thank God Dan's not there.
Yeah, I think it's good that they're not there, though, because I think if Dan, Derek, or any of them were there, they'd obviously be running the season. And I think that they would, play similar games to how they did before. And I also feel like we've gotten everything we could see out of, like Dan and Derek and things like that. So I feel like they don't really have anything else yet to prove. Whereas y'all have already touched upon, there are a lot of people here that do still feel like they have something to prove. So I think we're really going to get to see that this season. And Brian's comment here, I agree with definitely. Like, Ian was definitely very super cautious. So I hope that isn't something that is an issue for him. I hope he's able to integrate himself into the house a bit more, because it definitely does seem like he's a little bit, awkward with everyone right now.
Yeah, and before he could play that, like, young, naive, awkward boy kind of role, and this time he can't really do that.
Especially because half his hair is gray.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still on the younger side.
Yeah, he's
like,
still...
I think
he's 29. He's 29.
Yeah. Which is like one of maybe 5 people in their 20s. Like, he still is one of the younger ones.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the youngest is Nicole Anthony.
Yeah, she is. Because David is 30, and I think Nicole's like 26, 25.
Tyler's youngest. Tyler's 22.
Really?
Yeah,
he's 22.
Tyler really? I think he's 23 or 4.
He might be 23.
I was about to say,
Tyler's the youngest in the house.
Yeah, I don't think he's
24. I don't even look close to like that. Dear Lord.
Yeah.
I think Nicole, I wonder how Nicole will be with this environment, because like I said, her last season was a very, I want to say mostly toxic environment. Yeah. I wonder if they're going to nom both Nicoles. Like, there's too many Nicoles in here. We need to get rid of one of them now.
They're going to pull a sequester.
The one thing we haven't talked about yet is our wonderful 17th house guest, Anita Vito.
Yes.
I'm super excited to see. I wanted to see her make an appearance day one.
I hope she does, because the closest we had to like someone who would do like drag or something in the house was Gary. I think Gary had a couple before, but also we almost voted for someone in Canada who was a drag queen, but they got voted out over, I think, Allison. It was like BB3.
Yeah, Allison was voted in. BB2. BB2.
Yeah.
Because they were all in a secret room.
Yeah, it was her, some dude, I forgot, and then the other part. Yeah, like, I don't remember. It's been like 7 years since that happened, I think. But I hope Anita comes, maybe make an appearance in like a quiz HOH competition where they all get to dress fancy.
Nicole and Tyler are both 25 years old, and then the next youngest after that is Bayleigh at 27.
Yeah,
and then everybody else is
Brian here doing self-promotion for the drag sequester tonight. Y'all want to watch that? He's
yes, I will be watching.
Yeah, Jacob Sparks is that he's referring to.
Whoa!
I'm just going to throw this out there that Kevin/Anita Vito is my winner pick, and I will be rooting for them the entire season. I'm so excited to see.
We didn't even really talk about their intros, but some of their intros were funny, like Kevin.
Oh yeah,
pulling out that drag, like That's what I like about All Stars is that they have more like free range to like do their videos, and it's not so overly produced. Yeah, and I think
that's on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they didn't have a production crew out there. They filmed them the way we film sequester videos.
Yeah,
which is good. It's refreshing to see that. You know.
Yeah, it doesn't feel artificial. It just feels natural. It feels like it's what
I missed the key thing.
Yeah, it's what they want to be. You know, like it's not at all what CBS wants them to be. The archetypes aren't really there this season, which is good. Like I think a good example of that is Julie respecting Dani, wanting to be called Dani, not calling her by her full name because she doesn't like being called by her full name. We normally don't see that kind of stuff. Like normally if you call someone by their full name, Julie's like, wait, do you mean Davon? Day? Do you mean Davon? Like, or like last year with like Annalise, for example, wait, sis as in Annalise? Like she's usually confused about that. So the fact that she's not, again, that's also, I think, very refreshing.
Yeah. Because didn't they like change Jackson's name to Mitchie on the little name cards for like any HOH comps and everything?
Yep,
they did. Yeah,
that's good. But also, I heard that I don't like this is sort of like non-View thing, but I heard that she changed it to Dani because she thought Danielle Reyes will be in there.
That makes sense. Yeah, a lot of people thought.
She did.
Yeah,
I'm still
a lot of people were disappointed not to see Danielle Reyes in the house.
And that's another thing I want to know from this cast. Like, no matter what, like they're you can label them all-stars, but the term all-star is very loose, like most of the words in this community. And like floater has been misused a lot and such. But I really want to know who was the initial list and then see what happens. Because I feel like some people were not a first pick. Like nothing bad against them, as they got very lucky. But I'm really fascinated about that.
I think they casted this like they did the first Survivor, Blood versus Water. I think they just called everybody.
Yeah, I feel like it was
them back.
the same.
I don't think they had a list in mind.
Yeah, I think they called everybody, see who's available, tested everybody, see who wants to play and who doesn't. You know.
Yeah, especially for safety concerns and things like that too. I think again, the fact that we got this group, I think, is a real blessing because considering what we could have gotten, like we could have like the Austrians in here, we could have like tons of people from like Big Brother 18 in here that we don't want to see. So the fact that we have this group, I think we're in for a really good season for sure. And again, I want to reiterate this. The fact that we're already this positive in the beginning of a Big Brother season, I think is refreshing because we're not usually. A lot of the time, like y'all can watch back my reviews for like the premiere of last year. Fucking hated it. Or my review for like the premiere of Big Brother 19, which I fucking hated. Like we're not usually this positive. And I think we should just really just relish that. The fact that we are positive and hope that it at least stays that way and that we're not jinxing it because CBS is really stupid.
And Kevin, you touched on it about like not having the archetypes kind of dominate like the season, like who's that archetype or who's that archetype. So that's what I like to really see. And I hope like moving forward with casting like us regular people that aren't all-stars, that they don't rely on those archetypes anymore because they're dead. They're over with. We don't need to see that anymore. Just cast people you think that would be good game players on your show.
And that's why I'm so excited for Kaysar to be back because he's going to bring a lot of these like big discussions that probably would never happen in like regular seasons just because the maturity factor of most of the people. I think we don't really have a lot of because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a social experiment and put in the strangers, and even though they're not technically strangers in this situation. So it's very nice to see. Well, hopefully people will be more educated after what happened last season and what's going on in the world. And I think that's the one thing I'm looking forward to besides the game is that as viewers, for those who watch the feed religiously or just TV viewers, we can be more educated. And I hope CBS can form edits with that to help educate viewers to help, be better people. Because
one thing
I really don't want the winner to go to his mom and be like, was I a racist? The last thing he did before this episode cuts.
Well,
we don't want that.
One thing we did.
Oh, go ahead, Adam.
One thing we did learn on the feeds, not about the game, but apparently they did go through an anti-bias training before they went in, which is really good to hear.
Yeah, it's good, but it's like, why is this just happening now? This should have happened years ago.
Well, but here's the flip side to all of that. Let me just play devil's advocate.
Oh, no.
So we're going to get a little bit cleaner of attitudes, and we're not going to get anything insensitive. But is it possible we're in store for the nicest season of Big Brother that has ever happened?
I don't think so.
I don't feel like it.
I think there's people like Nicole and Devon who want nothing to do with each other. So.
I mean, there's a way of like having drama that's not those kind of race-based kind of dramas, you know, like people are still gonna have those little arguments. I mean, it's just been like 24 hours, so not even. So we'll see what they have in store. It hasn't really, nothing has really bubbled up yet, so everybody's like, hey, loving each other, kumbaya.
Because they were really just excited to see people and such.
I think so, yeah. I think there's a lot of people they haven't interacted with yet. So I think they're just kind of like, it's like us. They're just kind of like embracing the fact that, holy shit, I'm in a house with you. We get to interact. You know, this is going to be tons of fun. I think once we get to like, you know, the actual first week, which, you know, we'll talk about next week and things like that. That's when this season's really going to take off and hopefully really give us what we want overall, because we didn't really get that last night. You know, a lot of just quick interactions and Julie being
like, it was just like a live double
evicted.
Going back to what Topher said, though, I think there's the potential to recreate some of the most intense fights that we've ever had with Keesha's birthday. I know her birthday passed, but like Keesha yelling at people. We have Bayleigh and Tyler, who are both here again after their huge fight. And if y'all saw Bayleigh on the challenge, she's known to pop off at people. Devon versus Pauly was a huge jury house fight. While Pauly's not back, we do have Cody. Like, I think there's a lot of potential for some of these epic fights to just reform in different ways, even though we do have people like, I don't know, Nicole, Anthony, and even Nicole Franzel, who might not be like as fighty.
Because I think the only time Nicole got any drama, it was like she hid. She really hid. Nicole F. And Nicole A, I'm really worried that her bubbly like personality is going to rub people the wrong way, because most of these people are kind of old and I feel like I know like Dani and all of them, I feel like she's not like she dealt a house with Rachel. I'm not saying Nicole and Rachel are the same thing, but they're very bright and such, and being stuck in a house, I don't know. I worry for Nicole Anthony and about that situation.
I agree. And we've seen people, well, like we've seen the way that Dani is, the way that Janelle is, the way that even Bayleigh and Devon, the way that they are in, you know, general, is they have this ability to really think of themselves as above other people.
Yes.
And so for somebody like Nicole, who's really more of like a nerd archetype and young, I could see them being like, I don't want to associate with you. And, you know, kind of maybe those ladies that I just spoke about form like their own little like clique.
Yeah,
you know?
I think there's a lot of different possibilities there for sure. But we're gonna start to wrap things up here, because I think we pretty much touched upon everything. But right off the bat, I think, like I said, this is gonna be a really great season. I think we're in for some really fun stuff for sure. But before we do wrap things up, I just want to thank all four of you for being here. So we're gonna go around one by one. Adam, where can they find you?
Oh, how do I edit my name?
So add Adam Selcov on Twitter, and I'll leave it at that. Come find me, follow me.
Yes, Topher.
And Topher, you can find me at @aboytoph. That's @aboytoph. If you want to go ahead and give me an @aboy for what you're seeing today, slide into my DMs, whatever you'd like.
Yeah. The legendary Robyn.
Hey, yes. So, I mean, I don't live tweet about Big Brother because I like to be in the moment, but you know, you guys can still follow me. I do tweet some stuff about Big Brother and retweet other people's stuff. So,
yes, and Keith.
Yay.
And mine is the basic Keith Dumais, because I'm just a basic Betty with that. I just post lots of images of anything Tyler does against my favorite women. I just get disappointed. So if you like Nina Bobina Brown, expect to see a lot of pictures of her if the season goes be covering by Tyler and Cody.
Yes, but like I said, want to thank everyone for being here today. I think this was a lot of fun for sure. Thank you to Sean Dairo as well. I know that unfortunately he had some internet issues and wasn't able to stay around the whole time, but Moving forward, I plan to do this like usual once a week. Every Thursday is when we'll probably be on here. I'm gonna try to, diversify the panel as much as I can, have some different perspectives because there's a lot of different people I talk to, all that kind of stuff. I will definitely try to get all 4 of you back though at some point, which I look forward to. But like I said, I think this was really great. I think, and again, if you guys like Big Brother, I highly suggest checking out the Sequester community and things like that. Lots of fun stuff going on over there. You can meet amazing people like the 5 that I had on today. I think that they are a perfect example of what makes that community so great and why I've been focused on that and really nothing else at the moment. But either way, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.